Welcome to Post Race Reddit, where every week I check out the NASCAR Reddit page and go through the post race discussion, look at some of the comments, and I pick out some of the comments that I really like or the community really like and just briefly talk about it. I'm just getting started with these Reddit videos. So if you see your personal comment on the show and you don't want it on the show, let me know. I won't put you on the show anymore. And eventually, I'm hoping if these videos gain a little bit of steam, I will start doing my own sort of Reddit page. All right, now let's take a look at some of these comments post the Daytona duels. All right, what we got here. Carson Hocevar for 15th. Fuck all y'all, crashes the whole field, and Carson Hocevar for the win. No thank you. And this is from Objective Spell 4858. I kind of agree a little bit. Carson Hocevar tends to be really aggressive, and at the end of this race, didn't seem too as aggressive as you'd think he would be. But at the same time, I think he knew he probably wasn't going to get any help. He had his teammate in Michael McDowell back and forth, and he had Kyle Larson right behind him in third. And from my vantage point, it looked like Larson was pretty satisfied with either getting third or second. I don't think he was ever going to make a move to either help Hocevar or to pass Hocevar until they got to the front straightaway. But overall, Hocevar was more calm in that situation than what you probably expect. So I kind of agree with Objective Spell's comment. And this one is I Comment on Crap. I love that name, by the way. Got a picture here of Chase Elliott. A great way to get the blood pumping on a Thursday night. Real good job tonight out of the Team Chevy and Team Napa. And a great way to start Speed Weeks for Hendrick Motorsports. I'm not sure if that photo, I'm sensing a little bit of sarcasm, maybe with the way that race ended, kind of just how I was talking about with the Hocevar comment on how it was kind of a lame finish, but maybe a Hendrick fan as well as a Harvick fan here. So I am sensing a little bit of sarcasm, though, from this comment. Not super satisfied with the way that ended. Chase Elliott, even though I'm not necessarily a fan of Chase Elliott, it's always cool to see him win just because he has such a big fan base, and that always brings in more people when you have one of your popular guys winning. Zilich was awesome until everyone bailed on him. This kid is going to be dynamite. And this is from Mintoxicatedly Ace. I hope I'm saying that one right. Yeah, Zilich was really good. He impressed me overall in the Daytona duels. I think he was really just trying to feel himself out and try to feel out the next-gen car at super speedways, because the type of racing from next-gen to the O'Reilly series at the super speedways, it's two completely different ways of racing. And then on that green flag pit stop, he was all by himself. He was on his lonesome. He was on that lonely island, taking that pit stop at the end of the race, and ended up back in the pack, but couldn't end up competing for the victory at the Daytona duels. But overall, a good performance from Zilich. It would have been pretty interesting to see him win the Daytona duel. This one is also from I Comment on Crap. Could you imagine being on a business trip and it's going bad? It's a Sunday night. You're down alone in the hotel bar with a bunch of other people drinking beer, and then Malcolm in the middle says that Dale Earnhardt died. I assume this is referencing the We Lost Dale Earnhardt documentary or tell-all, whatever you would like to call it, that premiered right after the Daytona duels. I got lost for a second on what it was exactly called. We Lost Dale Earnhardt. Definitely a heart-wrenching documentary. I saw it afterwards. Mike Helton seemed like he kind of went through hell through all of that. It was interesting to get some different perspectives, like Ryan McGee. That was very interesting. To get Kurt Busch's perspective. Kurt Busch has probably had the most unique perspective, because I think in his mind, he never knew how Earnhardt felt about him when Earnhardt passed. So a very unique feeling, I'd say, for Kurt Busch. And then Kyle Busch, of course, being in there, all the comparisons he gets. And then Rusty Wallace, who was a huge rival of Dale Earnhardt, being in there and saying some words as well. If you haven't taken a watch on the We Lost Dale Earnhardt 25 years later documentary with Fox Sports, I recommend you check it out. I had a feeling when I was going through the comments, I was going to see something like this. And Some Pie Sheep posted this meme that I've seen so many times at this point with Corey LaJoie saying, "What does he even do?" And don't get me, I have my disdain for Corey LaJoie a little bit, but I also really like Corey LaJoie a lot. There's a lot of things I really love about Corey LaJoie, and there's a lot of things I definitely dislike about Corey LaJoie, but you can't deny the fact that if he ended up making the Daytona 500, he would have been a competitor for a top 10, top 5, maybe even the win. He's a very talented super speedway guy. All 4 RFK Fords looked very strong at the Daytona duels, and to have him wreck out on the last lap going into 3 and 4, it looked like Suarez got into the back of him at the same time he got into the back of Brad, just bump drafting, just an ill-timed bump from both angles, and it sent the 99 into the wall. That was a sweet looking Ford as well, and he looked like he had a lot of speed, so very unfortunate. I don't think Corey LaJoie deserves all the hate that he gets, I would say. I think definitely some of it he's brought upon himself, but anytime anything bad happens to Corey LaJoie, I feel like 90% of the NASCAR community just completely bag on him. And this one I don't think was deserved, because now we had Corey LaJoie wreck out, and I think Casey Mears is cool. Casey Mears is really cool. From what I've heard, he's one of the nicest guys in the garage. He's been around for a long time. He's trying to get to his 500th start, but let's be honest, he's not going to be very competitive in the race. I don't see him competing for a top 10, maybe not even a top 20, depending on what goes on. Obviously, if there's a big wreck at the end of the race, he might be able to sneak in there, but just on pure speed, I don't see it happening. While LaJoie, I think, could have been a legitimate contender for a top 10. And this one here is from DB Tornado. At this point, I expect Fox to go full screen commercial with 2 to go in the 500 and come back to a front stretch interview of the winner with only onboard and blimp shots of the finish that they show once right before they go off air. I understand this for sure. I don't think they didn't take as many commercial breaks as I thought they would, but the timing of a lot of these commercial breaks was pretty ass to be honest. And then the blimp shots, they were overdoing it with the blimp shot. I got really pissed at the end of the first duel, because I initially didn't know exactly what had happened with LaJoie. From the blimp view, I personally thought that Suarez just got into the back of him, and then LaJoie got into the back of Brad and spun into the wall. But it looked like it was actually closer than that, and he hit Brad on the bumper about the same time Suarez hit him on the bumper. But they showed the blimp replay of that darn near 100 times before they showed an actual decent view of the incident. They didn't show the incident again until Corey LaJoie was out of the care center. They waited so long to show an actual good view of the incident. That really frustrated me for sure, especially it being the last lap and being the most important part of probably both duels in general, was that moment when LaJoie wrecked and then Casey Mears ARCA braked it into 3 and 4. He said he wasn't gonna hit the brake. He wasn't gonna hit the brakes till you could do so. He saw. I forgot what Andy J said. My bad.
You watch this content and support it, you suck. You objectively, you're a piece of shit and you have shitty taste. I guarantee I could find 1,000 scientific reports to corroborate that. It's a fact. You suck.
That was a great ad by Bass Pro for Dale, and that is A. Hayes 31. I couldn't agree more. A very, very classy move from Bass Pro Shop. Of course, Johnny Morris and Dale Earnhardt had a very strong relationship years ago. I feel like Dale is one of the people that really put Bass Pro Shops on the map for a lot of people, and I think it was a very classy move 25 years afterwards, doing a Bass Pro Shops commercial, pretty much thanking Dale for everything he did for Bass Pro Shops and for NASCAR. Johnny Morris is a huge fan and supporter of NASCAR. You can see it with Austin Dillon and Chase Briscoe, and then a bunch of different drivers over the years, including Dale Earnhardt. And I just thought it was a really classy move by Johnny and everybody over at Bass Pro Shops to do a commercial like that. And I saw that commercial a couple of different times during the Earnhardt documentary after the duels. Respect for BJ, and this is from CS Intro. Yeah, LA Knight. Respect for BJ. Yeah. BJ, after the second duel, went over to congratulate Anthony Alfredo. He knew how big of a deal it was that Anthony Alfredo got into the Great American Race, and Anthony Alfredo gave a hell of an interview. Almost heart-wrenching, almost makes you want to cry interview, because he has a huge passion for the sport, as does BJ McLeod, clearly very passionate about the sport as well. But Alfredo has came very close to making this race over the last couple of years, and then for him to finally get in, he was very choked up in his interview. Honestly, a very beautiful moment, beginning with BJ congratulating Alfredo, and then Alfredo's interview, all of that. Just overall, really great moment. And BJ McLeod's a fantastic guy. Afterwards, after missing the Daytona 500, he was out there saying hi to fans and signing autographs, even though he just missed the biggest race of the whole entire season. With that being said, I actually personally made this post, this comment, and that is Anthony Alfredo fails post-race inspection. BJ McLeod is now in the Daytona 500. And this is gutting. This is heart-wrenching. When Bob first really announced it, and when it first started getting out there that Anthony Alfredo failed post-race inspection, Anthony Alfredo was still in that celebration. He was still posting on X. He was still pumped up about being in the race. He hadn't heard the news that they had failed post-race inspection yet. And it just sucks the way it happened, too. It sounds like it was for a hose clamp. It sounds like, to me personally, from what I'm reading into it, it sounds like there's a decent chance that this wasn't anything intentional. This does give you an advantage with what he did with the hoses and the hoses coming off, and a potential either bad hose clamp or just somebody not doing their job correctly. Sounds like what it probably was. Someone just not doing their job correctly. Alfredo had a big advantage on McLeod. JJ Yaley had some brake issues. I think his brake pedal got stuck down. So Alfredo was pretty much locked into the event. He was sitting in the front pack, even backed way back in case if there was an incident, because he knew that McLeod and Yaley both weren't a threat. And to just have him fail post-race inspection because of something that potentially wasn't trying to get an advantage. Rules are rules, though, 100%. Rules are rules. BJ McLeod's in the Daytona 500. That is just how it is. But just the way it all went down is very gutting and heart-wrenching for Anthony Alfredo. Fast Pasta, it's gut-wrenching, to say the least, for Fast Pasta to get eliminated from the Daytona 500 in that fashion. Also being in mid-celebration. Like I said, he was posting on Twitter a bunch. He was in the middle of posting on Twitter, and I guess didn't hear the news yet. Everybody was kind of making fun in the comments a little bit on his Twitter posts because he was posting that he's in the Daytona 500 when Bob Pockrass is already saying that he's not in the Daytona 500. So that's very painful for Alfredo. I've followed his career a long time. I consider myself part of Pasta Nation, and to have that happen, just very unfortunate. But like I was talking earlier about BJ McLeod is an awesome guy, cool guy, has a big time passion for the sport, is one of the coolest personalities the NASCAR garage has probably ever seen. He gets along with everybody, but I just got to feel for Fast Pasta, especially after that amazing interview that he gave. He just put his heart on his sleeve during that interview, and then just to have it all taken away an hour later, even though that's fair, that's the rules. They broke the rules technically, so rules are rules. It still doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. All right, that'll do it for post-race Reddit, and tune back in to my channel. Please subscribe, like, comment, and we'll do this again for the Daytona 500.